G'day and welcome back to the Murder Valley YouTube channel. So tonight, looking at the magnet traction that I've been completing. This is the one that I've created the new front, resin cast it, as you've seen in other videos from that. And what's missing now is the radar. So what's end up happening? My mate Steve, who's seen the videos and seen that I need a radar, has loaned me this body. And what I've actually done is, just before I've started the video, I've managed to separate the radar from the body. So now I'm going to resin cast. Now I'm going to resin cast the radar, and that'll give me my other police car that I've got here. That doesn't have a radar either, so I'm going to be able to complete that too. Happy days. Yeah, so that's one thing that I've got on for tonight. And then the other thing that I'm doing tonight is I'm going to have a look and see Dave that races with us. His cars are slowed down a little bit. Just he's struggling to keep up with the front runners. So I'm gonna look over these again. Now this is the Mega G Plus I looked at the other week, but the motor has just been off performance, so I'm going to look at that tonight as well and see what I can do with that. Okay, so now I've got my dyno here, so I'm just going to set that up so that can be seen. Alright, so to test the Bulldog, I'm going to set that up at that's set up at 12.5, and what is it currently getting? Right, so just been letting that run there on the dyno for a little bit. That's pulling 1.8, 1.9. Just as a comparison point, I almost spilt my drink there. Just as a comparison point, here's my racer, and that's still not. Yeah, I'll let that sit there for a bit. Alright, so I was actually running a lot better than this last week, so I'm thinking it might have slowed down just a touch. Let's a little bit of comm drop on there. Yeah, it's not that fantastic. And here's just a random one that I built for another guy who's been racing with us. So that's a fresh build, and obviously those tyres need to be running a little bit on track, which is why it's hopping. So yeah, they're all about on par. So as you can see, it's a completely fresh built car. The pickup shoes have hardly been used. It's done a couple of laps. I think he's run one race with it, which is why it's got a scratchy dot on it. But now we're going to put the Mega G Plus on, because I'm trying to work out why. I think when I assembled it, because I don't have a track at the moment that I can test on, that's where I sort of fell over there. Always got a problem with Mega G Pluses on the dyno. What is going on there, eh? It's almost like the pickup shoes, the springs are too strong. I'll get another one and put it on and compare it. Alright, so it is running. Now this is my own personal race car. And it still sits high at the front, just higher. But it's running better. China. Interesting. So I'll just clean the little the pickup shoes off with my finger. Interesting. But still, I want that to run faster. That's disassemble time. That's right, because I glued those in last time. They won't just fall out. Look how good that is. Alright, now I've glued all these in. So that's just a light lever snap to break the super glue. There you go, motor's free. Pickup shoe springs are still in there. It's got a lot of movement in it. That's really interesting why it's slow, why it's not performing. Anyway, I'm going to pull this apart and I'll come back. Actually no, change of plan. I'll do it here on video because some still might not have seen my other videos of how to pull the motors and these things apart. Oh, that's too big, hang on. Alright, so here I am with the smaller screwdriver, one that can actually fit. So I'm just levering up that tab just to release the plastic, if I can get in there. If I can do this without stabbing myself, it'll be a miracle. And I've got to make sure I don't break the circuit board off either. It's a real pain in the butt where they solder the top of that in, because they get solder on the top of the tab and it's hard to do the tab. So for those who watched The Secret before, you hold it here, move the base of the motor away, and then once that's free, then pull this out, and then you can do it. You manage to get it out this way without tearing the motor brushes off. What's its malfunction? It's not clean in there. I'm going to go and inspect this. Okay, so one of the things in this motor that I'm trying to work, there's too much end float in it. Oh. So what I've done is I've cut a bit of 0.5mm white styrene sheet. Should be able to get it from any half decent hobby shop. And then I'm going to cut this out. So that's a 1.1mm drill. That's a 1mm shaft. I'll cut this. Now this is just one of those things where it's just a trial fit. You just keep going until you get it right. So here I have a small diamond file, little round one. And what I do with these when making shims, just use the outer side of the blade and just make it somewhat round. And if I can, find an emery board, that'd be nice. Alright, so that's, look, that hasn't come up too bad for straight off a pair of scissors, but so let's try that in the motor, shall we? It's probably a bit big, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't do anything down this end of the motor. But every time you accelerate and deaccelerate, your armature moves backwards and forwards. So, with that fully put together, yep, 0.5 of a mil was too much. So what's the solution? Make it smaller. These are a fiddly little thing. I much prefer working on the motors with bigger, that are slightly bigger than these. Oh, for God's sake. There we go. Except for the fact that I just put it back together upside down. And now the wire snapped off. Good stuff, so I've fixed that. No, still too big. Just a little bit smaller. I'll pause this now until I... Alright, so now I've kept going, and now I've just got that little bit of end float movement that you want, so it's not binding. You just got to make sure that with these things that you've got the end bell securely pressed up to the can, because otherwise when you tighten those tabs up, you're gonna bind the motor up. So I'm going to take this apart now. So there's the, here you go, here's the end result. Very, very thin plastic shim. And how thick has that ended up? That is now about 0.25 of a mil, so I pretty much made it half as thick as what it was, and that's all it sort of really needed to take the excess end float. There's not a lot of room here on that comb and where those brushes sit, so I just wanted to make it so it's not travelling. So this face here, the large face at the back, wasn't rubbing up against the pickup shoe holders or any of that sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do is my standard thing now, just cleaning the comb up like I have in other videos that I have, and then I'll come back, clean it all up, get it all assembled, and we'll get this thing back on the dyno. Alright, so I've resoldered that wire back on just while I had it paused there. I've checked the tension on these, and just to up them a little bit, I've stuck my blade in there and just give it a little bit more positive. I'm trying to make the sound of those match, so they've got, I'm hoping at the point of contact that they've got reasonably equal pressure. So I've cleaned the comb up on my lathe, again off camera. Oh, come on. There we go, so that's now in. I've got my shim that I've made up on the end. Before I bend the tabs over, check it's still got free play, which it does. And then bend the tabs back down to lock it in place. And then again check it to make sure it's not bound up. It's a little bit of end float movement. There's a very, very small amount there. That's what I'm aiming for. Right. Let's put this back in the chassis. There we go. Pickup shoe spring just fell out. Pickup shoe hangers, you've got to get them in the right place in these things. So they go in front of that. Now I've broken the wire on the other end. Good stuff. Right, sits in nice and flat. Spins too tight because the gear mesh is too tight. Nice. Now I'm going to hook my soldering iron back up and solder that wire back on. Alright, while I had the video paused, the pickup shoe spring that came out, while I was trying to glue it back in, flicked it off, lost the damn thing. Found another one, put that in, and then after putting that one in, then found another one. So look, the motor's reinstalled. I've reattached the wire, and let's see how this goes. So that's already running better. That's heaps better. So I don't actually know why it was running slower, but all I know is Dave should be happy because that's running better now. So, the Bulldog. Let's drop it down to 12.5 volts for this one, and let's see what we can do with this. Now this I know hasn't been serviced in a while. Well, I'm reasonably confident. Number one thing I'm going to do is move the guide pin forward. I'll run them in the centre hole, not clicked all the way back. That way if it cops a bit of an impact, if it was going to crack the chassis, like the old Super G's used to, then it can slide back in the chassis into the rest of that slot before that's going to happen. So now I'm going to line that back up with the way the guide pin was worn. So that's number one, but that's not going to do anything for how it performs on the dyno. Let's pull it apart. These things are heaps easier to work on the Mega G Plus. It's a bit dirty in there. So at this stage, before I pull it apart, one of the things I check, yeah, it's one of the motors I've played with before. Positive, red, they go back together. When it goes back together, oh, you know what I don't have? Alright, so what I don't have is the motor brush spreader to make sure I don't damage the motor brushes. Right, so it's a bit dirty. Other than that, there, look how low. Look how low that that motor brush is worn. Let's see if I can. I've got dirty fingers now because I've been working on this. Alright, look how low that one on the left is. I think I might put a new end bell on for him. That might be the way to go. Alright, so I got a brand new end bell here. Look at the difference. Look at the difference in the amount of pickup shoe. Sorry, motor brush. There is. So there's a big difference. I think I'm going to Just going to clean that com up. Take the insulators off. So there's two on one of these. There's only one. Right, so I've got those off. I'm going to go and stick it on my lathe and bring it back. Alright, so I've just cleaned it up on the lathe, just spun it up, holding it in the lathe chuck with a bit of fine wet and dry. I think it's 600. Then raked the com segments out with the back of a stencil knife. Now, these end bells I have don't have colours marked on them, but that doesn't matter because I'll add it afterwards, because I know which side positive is because I've marked it with a plus. Right. Now everyone's got their little things that they do of how they put stuff together, but here's what I do with these. I bend these over, I bend them down in, I make sure I leave some of the loop in front, but not too much. Because that's all I need to contact in. So I'm going to add some red texture. Pink. Alright, so I just had my camera stop because I ran out of memory. But I've got Dave's car fully reassembled now. I've just lubed the dry bearing and the new end bell. And that's performing a little bit better. But let's help the motor brushes bed in. So just a little bit of com drops on there. Instant improvement, but down to 6 volts, and just let it run in. And all I do is watch that peak, and then when it peaks, I up it to 7 volts and let it do it again, and then I let it peak, and then I up it to 8 volts, and then I do it again. And yeah, so we'll be racing. Dave will be racing this. I'm hoping Sunday night if we can get enough guys to turn up the race. Look how easy those bodies go on. So there you go. So there's Davey's cars freshened up for this week's racing. But yeah, if you're interested in racing and coming and getting involved and learning a bit more about how to fix these things up yourself, I will be, when I can find that radar wherever I put it now, there it is, I will be resin casting this radar to go with this police car. I think I will probably do that in its own video, and I might go from the whole start to finish of making the mould. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Show the videos to your mates, because there might be something in them that teaches them something or shows them something they haven't seen before. But the dyno's there to show you guys results about differences of things that I do that actually makes a difference. It demonstrates it. Putting it on a track and just driving it around doesn't necessarily provide an accurate response, because if you wanted to pretend to drive the car a little bit slower, you could just back off a little bit to get a slower lap time before you build something. But the dyno doesn't lie. But yeah, so thanks very much for watching. More content coming. Thanks very much for coming back. All right, bye.